And how, for starting off Big 12 play, how good did it feel for you to kind of have the game you did, knowing that maybe kind of started out, it was kind of a struggle early on, and who you are kind of being the player everybody envisioned?
It was good. You know, I knew that this was kind of a fresh start. That's how we kind of approach it as a team. And so, you know, I just wanted to go out there and, you know, really make sure that I had a good game. And obviously, you know, you want to play well every game, but just make sure I took another step forward. And I feel like these last couple games, probably since before Nebraska's game, I felt like, you know, I've been making progress. And so, yeah, it felt good to go out there and, you know, have a pretty good game stats-wise.
You mentioned that after the game, you know, that this was kind of a new beginning. Big 12 play starts something new. Had you been eyeing that for a while? I mean, I know you've been trying to improve and produce and all that, but did you kind of have that in your mind down the road a few weeks ago that maybe that's, you know, something I can look toward?
Yeah, I mean, it does, you know, it was in my mind a little bit. Obviously, I would, you know, I knew that in order to have a good game, you know, and start off conference play right, I had to build towards that, you know, and have good games before that. And so, you know, I wanted to play well heading into conference play, and I think, you know, I was doing okay. But it definitely helped lead up to, you know, how the game went. And so, you know, I was looking at it a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for it too.
You said you just trying to get back to what you did well after the TCU game. Do you feel like earlier in the season you were maybe trying to do something you weren't?
You know, I think it's kind of funny because I think it started off that way. And, you know, I might have just been, you know, trying to do too much or just kind of adjusting. And then I figured it out pretty quickly and tried to make the adjustment. And in my head, you know, I really felt like I was playing the right way. It just wasn't translating. So, you know, to the outside, to the public, to, you know, anybody who's not, you know, very close to me, it might have looked like that continued for a while. But, you know, I had the right mindset. It just, you know, there's a lot of things that come into play with that, you know, whether it be foul trouble, any kind of small injuries, maybe just the way the ball is bouncing. I mean, there was a lot of things. But, you know, I think I had the right mindset. It just, I had to stick with it, and, you know, it's finally starting to, you know, kind of come around.
How much of it was offense? I mean, you were so good defensively and rebounding for a long stretch at the end of last season. It seems like it would be human nature to go, okay, just do that, and then let's turn it up on offense and get better there. I mean, was that your focus throughout the offseason?
It was, and, you know, it gets kind of frustrating when, you know, you go throughout the summer and stuff, you know, with the goal of, you know, all these new things I'm adding to my game and stuff, and then you get into the season, and you know, all of a sudden you find yourself like, okay, well, really, you know, what I do best has nothing to do with that. So, you know, but what I do well is exactly, you know, what, you know, this team could use, and you find it, you know, that if you start focusing on those things, other things kind of start coming, and who knows, maybe the more I focus on doing those other things, the stuff I worked on this summer will kind of start to show too.
Injured athletes have to kind of downplay the injury and hide it. You don't want to call attention to the opponents can take advantage of that. How tough is that when you're going through that and there's going to be inevitable criticism, whether from the coach or the fans or the media? How tough is it?
It's tough, but, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, everybody goes through it. There's a lot of teams that, you know, handle it the same way, and you just kind of got to, you know, just figure it out. You know, Coach teaches us to be men about things and go out there and, you know, handle business, and you know, that's what we, you know, kind of have as our mindset. And so really we don't let small things like that really get to us too much. And so, you know, while it might be a factor in things, we want to make sure it's as small of a factor as possible, and just, you know, work through it and move on. And, you know, you'll heal eventually. So, you know, that was my mindset the whole time, was just kind of working through it and making sure I was getting better each day and each practice. And, you know, I think I did that pretty well.
With Udoka's injury, do you feel an increased urgency to avoid foul trouble and how that affected the game? Can you participate?
Yeah, I think immediately, you know, that kind of came into play. But I will say, I you know, as it is, you know, most years, the refs start to understand maybe the way I play a little bit better, and I start to understand the way they're calling it better. And as the season goes along, I feel like it's easier for me to stay out of foul trouble. So that's definitely helpful. And I've noticed it in the last couple games, and it'll only, you know, get better. There will still be those games where you just can't avoid it, but you know, I'm trying to minimize those as much as possible.
Along those lines, Landon, last year you guys could at least play 10 or 11, and last game you guys played 7. Maybe you can go 7 or 8 or 9. What's the difference this year for players when that changes in a year?
You know, it's just kind of just the way, you know, coach is going about things right now. I think it could be a good thing. You know, having a lot of guys could be good, but you know, playing this way could be good too, because everybody kind of understands their role, understands kind of what their minutes are looking like. You know, at times it could be kind of confusing, not knowing if this is a game where you play a lot or not much at all. But, you know, I think everybody kind of understands their role, understands if they do get in, it's for this amount of time. You know, this is what they are expected to do in that time. So, you know, we can build off of that. And, you know, it's happened early on in the season that we kind of figured out a rotation, it seems like. And so, you know, we can grow off of that and learn, you know, what we need to work on going into the later parts of the season.
Much is made about home court advantage, but how big a deal is it in conference play where you got teams and guys that have come in here before? I mean, they know what to expect, and yet you guys have been great at preserving your home court advantage in Big 12.
It's huge. I mean, and you notice it as a player just because, you know, with the playing every team twice, home and away, you kind of, I've said it before, it's almost sometimes like playing a different team, you know, on the road than it is at home, just because of how comfortable we feel at home, and probably how comfortable, you know, other teams feel, you know, coming into here. So, you know, we really do love our fans and the atmosphere that's created at the field house, and it's definitely something that we take pride in, and you know, it's helped us win the Big 12 in the past year, so we know that we have to protect it in order to win again this year.
What do you think about K-State? Have you seen anything about them? And you had 40 your last home game against them.
Yeah, no, they're a great team this year, you know, and they're finishing games off, and you know, I think they were a really good team last year too. There was a couple close ones that they were, you know, didn't win last year that they're winning now, and so. You know, we're prepared for, you know, really hard-fought game. I know personally I'm matched up against a big that, you know, goes after everything. And, you know, I enjoy going against guys who, you know, are hard workers, and Johnson is definitely one of those. So I'm looking forward to it. It's always a fun game. I know in my time here I've learned more and more about the rivalry. And so to have it be the last time playing them at home, you know, I think will be a fun one for me.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Things that maybe he wasn't the player that could do those things, and he kind of refocused to what he does well. Did you see that from him at some point, that shift?
Yeah, I think so. It wasn't that he can't do things. It's just that you know, there's some things that he's better at than other things, and players should always play to their strengths, and he wasn't probably doing that like he could. I thought he was great against TCU, and I thought he was great on the glass against UNLV as well. So yeah, he's definitely on his way back.
Your rotation was down to 7 last time. Are there positives and negatives to shortening that up?
Shortening up to the bench.
Just shortening the bench rotation. Having 7.
No, I don't think so. I think 7's not enough. I think we should. I think the 8's our number with this team. You know, getting behind early, and then you know, playing one man down basically with Josh in foul trouble. I just thought it was best in that situation. Try to keep the guys that have been there before, you know, have the majority of the minutes, and basically gave them all the minutes. So that wasn't a knock to Mitch at all, but we know we got to get Mitch in there. So.
Do you feel like Landon's been playing smarter in terms of avoiding fouls?
Well, you know, he got one in 14 seconds or 16 seconds the other night. That was a dumb foul. That was 94 feet from our basket. Or 94 feet from their basket. So that we got to tighten up those things. But I think so. I think Landon's played pretty well. I do. I think he's played well, and he's going to have a challenge, obviously, in this game with Johnson because he's so active. And he's an undersized guy that can create some problems because he's such a great athlete. But we think Landon's doing a nice job.
Have you had to think about that, or I guess evaluate the difference with fouls early on your big guys like that? I mean, there's philosophies about 2 fouls in the first half or whatever, but that one like that is so quick. Do you have to think about, should we take him out now?
No, not in that situation. But I do think you have to think about if he gets one early, getting him out a little bit early. Let Carlton play as much as he can before he picks up 1 or 2. So I do think our substitution pattern, if you can call it a pattern, I'm not sure you can call it a pattern, is different than what it would be if you knew you had 5 more fouls to give.
Kansas State's off to a pretty good start. What do you see from them on film?
No, they're off to a great start. Not pretty good. They're better than they were last year. They got both guards healthy, which is obviously a big bonus, and Brown and Stokes. And Snead, I think, is a guy that gives them a lot because it gives them a lot more depth off the bench. And Wade's playing well, and Johnson's one of my favorite players in the league. I love his energy and how he plays, and of course. I think personally that they're one of the most improved teams in the country. I really do. I think they're sound defensively, and they're playing with freedom offensively. They're scoring more points. At least it appears to me that they are, and looking to score early, but still very disciplined.
Were you upset with the defense of your guards after watching the film?
Yeah. Well, I was much more upset after watching the film. Tape doesn't lie. And they know. I mean, we showed the entire game to the guys the next day, so the tape doesn't lie, and they know. And certainly we didn't do much of anything defensively. And of course, that's my responsibility to get guys to compete and play hard on that end. And also some of it is technique. It's not always on defense. It's not always trying hard. Some of it maybe we haven't educated them well enough on how we want to guard certain actions. But that was inexcusable. To be real candid with you about how our perimeter defended the other day. I thought Landon did a nice job. Landon's man gets 28, and I bet you made 3 baskets on Landon. It's because the guards put him in position so many times where he had to help.
Was there any better understanding after watching film with him why Josh had the rough night offensively?
I don't think so. You got to play and have some rhythm, but he missed 2 or 3 layups to start the game, and that happens sometimes. I watch these games around the country, and they say, well, it's his first conference game. Guys react differently. Every game you watch, it's the first conference game. It's their first road conference game. They make such a big deal about things that are very trivial, in my opinion. And I think in this particular case, I don't think it was nerves. I don't think it was the fact it's the first conference game. I just think it was a bad game. I don't think there's really anything else to it.
Thoughts on the first week, Big 12 play, first games?
You mean by all the teams?
Yes.
Well, it's K-State over Texas was a huge win. I mean, because and they had control of the game, and then Texas made it interesting late. But I thought that was a huge win. I think Texas Tech showed everybody they can play, and that was a great comeback by Iowa State. But the 2 games that were most impressive to me was what Baylor did in Norman and what West Virginia did at Okie State. We've always struggled at Oklahoma State, and they go down there and control the game start to finish. And then, I haven't seen any tape on the Baylor game, but apparently they must have. I mean, it was 54 to 27 or something like that at one point in time, or maybe 57-26. I don't know, but it was an unbelievable start to their conference season. So all it did was just prove what we already knew. League's good, really good.
They jumped up to 2 today in the AP poll.
They jumped over us?
Yeah.
I anticipated that. Okay. What are we? Are we still 3? And I don't know what the numbers were they jumped, but I think they were only like 6 votes behind us going into this last weekend, and they were far more impressive than we were. So that didn't surprise me at all. They deserve where they're at, and if anything, that won't be motivation for us against K-State, obviously, but that'll get our guys riled up a little bit.
Bill, the home court advantage you guys have had conference play, and I think you got a streak here going now. How big a deal is that? Because you got teams that come in with players who have been in here several times before. They know what they're getting into.
Well,
able to do that.
you know, the home court is obviously a huge advantage. I'm not going to lie and say it's not. I think having really good players is a bigger advantage than the actual number of people that's in the stands. But I do think it's a huge advantage. And you go back and watch games, you know, like I watched the 3 K-State games from last year, and the one here, hey, it's a 2-point game with 10 minutes left or 12 minutes left. And then all of a sudden, you get that one run. And I think that's what our home court has meant to us as much as anything else. Is when we haven't been good, we've been good for 3 or 4 minutes, and that 3 or 4 minutes is a run that has been able to separate ourselves. And of course, a large part is that due to the atmosphere. Guys just get confidence playing here.
Wade was obviously good last year, and he's off to another good start this year, but he struggled each time you guys played him.
Yeah, but that's not really fair to him. Okay. We had a guy that was pretty good that he was guarding and that was playing against him. Some of Perry's best games in his career came against K-State. So I went back and watched the tape. We actually did a pretty good job on him last year, but it was, I think, primarily because we had active big guys. Perry was an athlete and Jamari was an athlete. And he's such a good pick and pop guy and a face up guy that we were able to get to him some. But you're right. He had a great freshman year, but he's much improved this year.
Stokes was hurt for most of the league last year, and how impressed have you been with him?
Well, I think he's the key to their team. They're good on the wings without question, and Brown can score, and Onawaku is if I pronounced that right, I hope I did, but I've always loved his game, but still, to me, you can have a lot of guys that think they can play point and can play some point, but there's very few out there that are points, and he's a guy that makes them tick.
All right, Coach.